the biggest thing is reputation precedes revenue, right? So you always have to work on yourself. But I think for sales, it's really tough. Sales is a lot like going to the gym. Everything you do today in most sales roles is going to impact you, not tomorrow, not next week, not next month, 6 months from now. What does a client that's meeting us want to know, especially corporate selling? Have you done it before?
Welcome to Inner Pump, where we help driven individuals get the most out of life and build the inner mastery to drive growth, confidence, discipline, and mental fortitude, where overcoming adversity means doing the things you know you should do. Real topics, real people, real business. I'm your host, Ajay. Let's get it. This is Inner Pump.
Let's get it. What up, man?
I'm ready for today, man. This is a topic near and dear to my heart.
Well, you're gonna be driving this one, man, because I'm not in sales, but I am in sales.
Well, there's
Come on, you see what I'm saying?
There's sales and everything. So I think we'll take a look at mostly two different flavors, right? Like entrepreneurship selling, which is selling yourself, your vision, being succinct, being brief, being direct, and then corporate selling.
Yeah.
And I spent 7 years doing big business to business, large enterprise deals, and I think some of my experiences there will help a lot of our audience just how they engage with buyers on the corporate side.
Yeah,
because that's every day, and I think a lot of it is I'm a psych major, so I'm really obsessed with the psychology of selling, why people are the way that they are, and so I've learned a lot just through trial and error and some hopefully very tactical things that this group can deploy.
Hey, man. Well, I want to challenge you for this episode. I want you to not only tell us about corporate sales, but I want you to teach us entrepreneurs how we could apply what you're saying to our field, to our industry.
Yeah, I mean, I'm learning, right? Like I'm 7-8 months into being an entrepreneur, so I'm going to speak with results from the corporate side, but I'm also going to share a little bit of. Remember, I'm early in the entrepreneurship side, so some of this stuff is still TBD.
Yeah.
At least through the lens of being an entrepreneur. But I've got enough success behind me on the corporate selling side that I think a lot of this transcends industry.
Wait, can we tell the audience how much you did in revenue last year in your first 6 months?
Oh, in 2023,
Yeah,
it's funny.
yeah.
I got a text from one of the guys that runs the sales team at my last company saying that I finished the year. I stopped selling in February of 2023, and I finished the second highest sales in the company.
He stopped in February.
And I only lost
Too
by
much
$1 million
You're
to
lying.
the top seller.
You made more in 2 months. Are you serious?
Yeah, and there's 1,800 sellers.
Okay, y'all. So, hey, this is gonna be a master class. This is gonna be a master freaking class. Wait, hold on. Before
That
you
was
go
a cool
Matt,
text to get.
How did you build that? Because I know that took years and years to build the skills for you to be 2 months in and be number 2 in the entire year for your old company.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the biggest thing is reputation precedes revenue, right? So you always have to work on yourself. But I think for sales, it's really tough. Sales is a lot like going to the gym. Everything you do today in most sales roles is going to impact you not tomorrow, not next week, not next month, 6 months from
That's
now.
the gym right there. Yeah.
That's really the biggest thing. So if there's a foundational thing to remember when you go into sales and when you listen to some of these things is the hard work is not actually in that finalist presentation or in that first meeting with a prospective buyer. It's all the work to even get qualified for somebody to call you or to take your meeting. That's the hardest part.
Yeah.
So everybody wants to spend all this time looking at like innings 8 and 9, aka like the last 2 stages of a deal. But the hardest part is really innings 1 through 7. And for me, the thing that I'm most proud of from an individual selling perspective is I always say to like realtors, software salespeople, take your worst year and your best year, take those away. The rest is who you are as a seller, right? And so what I'm most proud of is just year over year success, consistency. And how you do that is the daily activity, the daily inputs, and that's how I was able to do that for January, February.
It was one in 2022.
Hell yeah.
Your
Way
2023
before.
was
Way before. So my 2023 was a product of the work, the relationships that started in 2018. right?
People don't
All of
understand that, bro.
And I learned a lot of just, you've got to have a lot of balls in the air. So people are always focused on, if I get that one client, this will happen. No, it won't. You know, you've got to, then that'll restart the clock 6 months. You've always got to think about, like, good sellers are always months and quarters. I'm already on to my next one, right? I've got it, or I've got a couple going at once. And having a lot of balls in the air is powerful. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how salespeople, being the face of a deal or an opportunity, a company, a business, a sales pursuit is a lot about being in a position of power. Not being somebody that is, oh my gosh, thank you so much for taking this meeting. I'm so grateful. Thank you so much for your time. Like that is not a position of power.
You can sense that. You can sense
just inferior. You just need it. You don't want a buyer to feel that way because they won't buy from you.
Exactly.
So there's a lot to unpack.
Well, let's go right now. Come on.
Yeah.
Give it to us.
So I think the biggest thing about sales, the biggest misconception, one of them, right? There's a lot of them, is that people really actually want your product. They don't actually want your product or service. They want the result, right? So what do we talk about? I think you and I talked about this a couple of weeks ago. Like what do we say? Sell Maui.
Yes.
Sell the vacations.
Yes.
They don't want TSA.
No.
The plane flight, the Google Flights alerts.
The baby.
The baby in the
crying in the plane the whole
9-hour
time.
flight.
Yes.
My rental car, I booked it on the wrong
Wait, hold
day
on, bro,
because
hold
I
on.
messed up the time zone. They don't
That was
want
my
that.
baby crying the whole way. So I'm sorry, guys.
Yeah, but they want the result. So you have to sell Maui.
Yes.
And so how do you do that? Like backing way up, right? Backing way up. You have to have. Let's talk about some very tactical things, right? So for me, I'm always telling our sales team, and when I was leading a sales team at my last company, in terms of like, there were going to be 10, 12, 15 people from my team that touched the buyer, touched the client, the potential client. So we needed to all be on the same page. So we used to always, I'm trying to be really simple with the sales team that I'm preparing for a pursuit. Even if I was the face of the deal, I need everybody to be an extension of me, because I had at least self-awareness from experience that it's got to be a team sell, at least in what I was selling. So I would always tell the team, facts tell, stories sell. And I would always think to myself, gosh, what does that mean? I really want my competition to go in and be feature and product rich. I want them to go in with that qual slide that says, here's, we've done 50 of these, we've done 100 of these, and here's when the company was founded, and do some of that, just like what I would call table stakes stuff. Everybody's got that. Like that's a ticket to the
entry
dance.
price.
Yeah, that is not. It's not a differentiator. It's not a memorable moment. And I'm going to get into that in a second. So what we would always talk about is you've got to have a story. And so I found out through trial and error that what does a client that's meeting us want to know, especially corporate selling. Have you done it before? They want to de-risk the decision. So we would always lead, and I would always define win themes with our team. And I always like to tell salespeople, keep it really simple. Salespeople that go in and they complicate the hell out of stuff. They go specs, they talk about a bunch of different stuff, feature, function. The client just wants the result. At least initially, you've got to win them emotionally, and you've got to check a couple boxes. So if I'm going to buy something, I'm thinking to myself, at least corporation-wise, have they worked in my industry before, and have they had success, right? And so we will always talk about, okay, let's survey, let's take a log of what we've done. Do we have a story that we can put in the back of our brains to actually bring that up in the meeting? So here's a real tactical example. If I'm meeting Arby's. Weird example, right? If I'm meeting Arby's and they're trying to buy technology from me, I would go in and I would first tell our team in the internal prep, all the work's in the prep, right? How you win is in the prep. And what we would talk about is, have we done any other companies like Arby's? Have we done Fogo de Chao? Have we done Raising Cane's? Have we done Whataburger? Whatever those are, right? And we would not go on offense with it. We would wait until we would go into the first meeting and ask the client, hey, what made you take the call? What made you decide to take the meeting? And what's really cool is you're now activating your client to make decisions. So there's something tactical there that says, okay, I'm a buyer. I can make this decision. And what they would end up saying is, whatever they would say back to us, we could then answer with a story. And we would be able to pull in that we've done Raising Cane's or we've done this other client. And immediately I always say these win themes are caught, not taught, right? So you don't want to go on a page on a slide format and say, here's why we're really good. You want the client to, you want to know what the client's going to pick up on in the middle of that meeting. They're going to catch it. You're not going to,
You don't have to.
you're not going to have to shove it down their throat.
Yeah,
You want them to feel it. Oh my gosh, these guys just, wow, they already answered one of my questions. And you want them that moment, oh, they already answered one of my questions, to come up a couple times in your really choreographed. It's choreographed, but the
sprinkled in
power,
there, yeah.
the power is that it comes off organic.
Yeah.
And that's so much more powerful when those win themes are
Can
caught,
I ask
not
you a
taught.
question right now, though? When you said it's organic, how important is it for the person that's doing the sales? How important is it for them to be authentic and genuine, right? Because is there like
Critical.
yeah, like, but how do you come off as authentic and genuine? Is it just like being you?
Well,
know?
you have to, if you're adding so much value, it at the end of the day, it should be the client's idea to work with you. So I hate the hard close stuff. I think that
we see a lot of that on Instagram.
yeah, it's the like how to close in 3 days. It's like, no, add so much value, tell good stories, credential yourself so that you're the right decision, right? You at some point, there's some buyers you've got to ask for the business at some point, but it really, if you're adding enough value every step of the way, they'll work with you. So I think being genuine is you actually genuinely and authentically need to want to help them.
Want their best.
You
Yes,
need
that's
to
what I was
help
getting at.
create the results. So
That's
sell
what I
the
wanted to hear.
results. Sell that. In my earlier example, look at what Raising Cane's has done. And when another trick that we always use at the beginning of a sales cycle is this push pull, right? So how do you genuinely, how do you make somebody trust you? Is you don't assume they want to work with you, and you don't assume that you're the right fit for them. So one of my favorite things to do in an initial meeting is say, "Hey, why'd you call us?" And mostly, I want to know if we're the right fit for you.
What does this do? What does it do? Are you
I'm trying
putting
to
their
put,
arm,
I'm
their
trying
guard
to
down?
put the buyer. I'm trying to put the buyer on their heels a little bit to say, "Gosh, this commit team or Matt, they don't need to work with us.
It's not desperation. Yes.
They want to make sure that they're the right fit for us."
Mm-hmm.
And what that does is it really disarms them.
That's what I was, yeah.
It really disarms them, and suddenly,
This is tactical today,
if you pair that with a story, now all of a sudden you're not selling, you're partnering. And it's very different. It's very, very different. And you can also get a sense of what they really need, right? So another thing that I think is a very tactical thing that this group can do almost immediately in sales meetings is don't ask a client what they hate about their current realtor, their current technology, their current whatever they're buying, right? If you're selling cameras, what do you hate about what do you not like about your current camera? It makes me cringe. I
What should they
learned
do?
this a long time ago, and it's a beautiful trick. Ask them what they really like about their current X, Y, and Z. And the psychology of this, and it's undefeated in my experience, undefeated. Two things happen. They mentioned one or two things that they like. By the way, helpful for your sales pursuit. Now you know I got to make
They
sure I have
really
those.
like
I got to
this,
make sure I
yeah.
highlight those two things.
Mm-hmm.
And immediately, before you even ask another question, they're there for a reason. They don't like certain things. So they're going to already tell you, here are the two things I like. And now you've been positive about it and you've been different. Nobody asked them what they liked. So now you picked up a couple gems nobody else has. And in that same response, they're going to finish that sentence with, but I hate that we can't run reports in our technology. I hate that it's slow. I hate that the battery life sucks. And now all of a sudden, you know what to press on.
You have the
You've got your
information
win
without even
themes.
having asked.
And here's where you tie in the story. Immediately, I'm prepared. I know I'm going to ask that question. I'm prepared. I answer with a story. If this is Arby's saying it, I say, "Phew." It's just funny you say that because that's one of the reasons Raising Cane's called us. And what we did for them is they had the same issue with their point of sale system, and it was this and that and this. And now I've got, you know what? I'm not even going to explain it to you. I think you should talk to Jim at Raising Cane's. I'll set that up for you next week.
Now you have a testimonial.
So now I'm not selling, right? Now Jim from Raising Cane's is going to sell for me.
Yes. That's a form of a testimony right there, though.
And-
oh my gosh.
And the sales pursuit is over.
Okay, so let me push. No, two things.
It's over. From
First
that
thing-
point, we've won.
Can you give our audience because you just mentioned like 4 to 5 things that were like boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
Can you give our audience those 5 things? Recap it. Like 1,
Yeah.
do this. 2, do that.
Yeah,
3,
I think
make
so.
it very simple.
So
if you had to.
Yeah, I can. Let me. So the 5 things that you can. I learned an acronym called CATCH. So CATCH. C stands for clarify why they're there. Right. A.
Show us example.
So clarify why they're there. An example is, why'd you reach out?
That's what I want to hear.
Right. So the second thing is assign an agenda. So what does that mean? Like, what are we really trying to solve for? Right. What are we trying to solve for? And an agenda is critical in a sales pursuit. Like, I want to know what my next steps are. Right. Like, why does it make sense for us to work together? So assign an agenda. And that also allows you to figure out kind of who's making the decisions here. Right. T, talk them through the pain. So you need to know where the pain is. Right. And I think prefacing, I don't know that we're the right fit for you, is such a good way to make your follow-up response to hearing their pain genuine. Because they think that there's a chance you will say, and by the way, really important, you do need to turn down certain business. There are moments, and you get a ton. Every deal I've turned down, I've gotten 5 in return. Wow. And because that push-pull, clients...
Why would you turn down the deal, though?
Because we weren't the right fit. Because we weren't the right fit. I didn't feel like... It was a very tactical reason. I didn't have the right story. You'll know, right? Either we weren't a cultural fit a lot of times, or I just didn't know, right? So that's we didn't have I couldn't tell story. If I couldn't say, hey, talk to Jim at Raising Cane's, if it was a bank and we didn't have a bank success story, I better have something else, right? So if it's not industry focused, maybe we've worked with that. Maybe I've taken somebody from that camera to the camera I'm trying to sell, and I know what that transition's like. So it doesn't have to be industry focused; it can be product focused. So maybe I've gone from that point of sale system to this one. But it was in a different industry. That's still helpful. That's still a success story. That I know we're the right fit. I know we can be successful.
But then one could push back and say, well, how can I get started, Matt, if I don't have anybody to give any testimonies for me? Or if you see what I'm saying?
Culture fit. Find something, right? Individual stories, right? Like, if you don't have it, then you need to find another reason, another way to sell. That could be, hey, you got to take a chance on us, right? Like that. You have to build your book of business some way. Also, you could just do free work until you've got a success story. Like, create so much value to where, hey, now I've done this before. Yeah. And that changes your selling.
Because someone needs to take a chance on the person so they could.
Yeah, totally. So that was C, talk them through the pain. The second C is close them, right? And H is help them make a decision. So H is really important because a lot of what you'll find, and I have a lot of salespeople like, I'm at the wrong level. I'm not talking to the right person. Meaning this person's just too low on the totem pole to make a decision. A really beautiful part about stories is stories give your buyer, empower your buyer, not your buyer, empower. There's influencers and there's buyers, right? So influencers are still important because they can elevate you to the buyer, right? So if you can get the influencer to have enough confidence to take it to the actual decision maker, the way you do that is through stories. And I'm always trying to craft in a sales pursuit, bringing back memorable moments. There is this beautiful thing in self-awareness in sales, which is if you're in especially a corporate pursuit, everybody's going to say mostly the same thing. If a lot of these companies will have like 1 or 2 days of presentations with potential vendors, and 90% of the stuff will be the exact same. And you have to recognize that. So how do you need to know what your memorable moment could potentially be before you get into the meeting. So what's a memorable moment? The dust settles 2 days later. They've gone through 4 of these. What do they remember about you? They're not going to remember that you've done this or done that before. People remember stories.
Yeah.
Stories
sell, facts
People remember the Maui. They don't remember the process.
Yeah.
So part of what we'll do, and I now learned that the hard way, is we will show a final product. We'll flash it up, something. Either it's a story or like a real product that we can show on PowerPoint as an example. Like we'll show like a case study or something like, here's the end result. And people remember that. Oh my gosh, I want that. Like, I need that. And that's the comment you want. And then they're never going to forget that. When they meet as a team to talk about, hey, I talked to Deloitte and Accenture and all these big companies. What did y'all like? You need to know that they're going to remember 1 or 2 of those things that are going to put you in front of everybody else. You got to know that before the meeting. So it's just really that memorable moment concept is critical. And salespeople get too hung up thinking the buyer is rational, thinking the buyer is going to understand their features and functionalities and all this stuff that it's just like they're not. It's not that it's not important. They're just not going to remember it in an initial 60-minute, 90-minute, 2-hour meeting. They're just not going to remember it.
So for our average listener, how can they use what you're saying and apply that to their fields?
It's all in the prep. It's recognizing the psychology of buyers. Like I think you're always selling yourself also. So like if you can think about a memorable moment in a meeting, right? Like there's so much power in explaining. Here's an example of how I actually did this. All right. Versus here's how I won a deal, or I won 3 deals. Well, like, explain one. Explain a real story that would resonate with somebody that they're going to remember in an interview. Find a way to connect. I think the initial part of a meeting is really important, and same with the end. And that preparation too, especially when we talk about virtual selling is a different beast, right? Like you can feel somebody's prep. And if you're in person, like you can kind of ad lib a little bit. You can read the room. If you're actually virtual selling with a team in a team environment, you really can tell if somebody preps. Well, think about it. Like how much power is it in, like, let's say we have 10 speakers and I have slides 1 through 3, you have 4 through 7, somebody has 8 through 11. How great would it be if nobody says in that 90 minutes, hey, next slide.
Yeah.
And nobody says, Ajay, this is your piece. Imagine what the buyer would feel if you're just boom, 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 boom. And they know. They feel it. You don't have to say, I hate when salespeople go and they say, oh, I read your website, and they try and flex that they prepared. Or I looked on your LinkedIn and you went to Florida. Go Gators. It's like, all right. You're just trying to suck up. Find a different way to make them feel you prepped. Don't tell them you prepped.
Don't tell them, yeah.
Make it so goddamn obvious you prepped, right? Like, that's it. Hey, we noticed a lot about your guys' culture, right? Like, this is why we have this like change management. We have this idea. Here's a real deliverable that we think would resonate with y'all based on what you said. Like, they remember that. They remember that kind of stuff. So that's really important. One last tactical thing that I've was reflecting on in preparation for this was I created an objection log my first year of selling a certain thing. And I can't remember what book I got this from, but I had a OneNote folder of all the potential objections that I've either think I'm going to get or have already gotten. And I kept a log of those so that I could go rehearse what the best way to respond to those objections would be. And it was just a very powerful exercise because it just allowed me to be confident that I could go into any sales meeting and I would be able to reflect. And there was power in that because I lost my first 2 deals. And I never lost another competitive pursuit again because I never made those 2 mistakes. I knew that I was never going to make that same mistake again. One of them was one of my competitors brought 10 people to Alabama, and I brought myself and one other guy, and I just didn't know. I didn't know. It was my first deal. I thought, hey, I feel good about this. And guess what the client felt when my competitor brought 10 people? They want the deal more than us. They want a partner. Look at this investment. They were asking me about the team that we would staff, and I would say, oh, well, they're a great team. Here's their bios. Guess what my competitor did? Team's right here.
Ask them.
Every pursuit from there on, I brought the team. I was never going to make that mistake again.
What was the second one?
The second one was a hotel chain. And I remember again, this is ownership. I had brought somebody on that did Best Western. That was a part of Best Western. And we were talking to this small hotel chain in Florida. And I didn't prepare him. It was my fault. I just assumed that he would execute. And it'd be really easy for me to blame him.
But who was the leader?
It was on me. It was on me. I needed, even though this dude was 15, 20 years older than me, he didn't want it as bad as me. And he was not prepared to answer the industry-focused questions that I knew they were going to ask. And I just assumed that he would execute to my standard. And so I never made that mistake again. And I over prepared and prepped our consultants that would get on the phone with prospective buyers to say, this is how I expect you to answer these questions. Not with a lack of integrity, but just with specificity and confidence. And I had to realize that these people aren't salespeople. They never signed up to do interviews. It's part of their job, but it's my job, though, to get them confident. And so I always prepared, and we would go on offense with those resources, and I would always prepare them ahead of time so that when they were asked, consultants on my sales teams would always say, I felt over-prepared for that. They asked exactly what, just there's power in that. So I just never made those two mistakes again, and instead I flipped it. And I went on offense with the two reasons I had lost. I'd say, I'm going to win all my future deals because of this. And so there was a lot. I mean, is some of this helpful for you?
No, it
I mean,
is.
I think a lot of this transcends, technology selling, and I tried to make it as agnostic as possible. I think the concept of selling the result is critical in selling, personal training, selling homes, selling anything.
That's what I do. Yeah.
Is that kind of what you've been doing?
Yeah. Well, not kind of. I mean, I build houses and I sell them. So,
Yeah.
yeah. And with me, I mean, you're spot on, bro. Like you sell people think they're like, yeah, I want to sell this home. It's like, no, you want to sell the experience. You want to sell the feeling of this person in this new home. And with me, which is really cool, with what I get to do is like, since I get to build from the ground up, I get to think of that feeling in the front end. I get to think of, okay, I want the homeowner to walk through here and they're going to see this and they're going to see that we've spent so much attention to detail here. They're going to know that the people who designed this, they really thought about me. They really cared about me. And it's just something.
Hopefully they feel that, right?
Yes,
yeah.
that's what I'm. And so when they walk into this, they're gonna feel something. They're gonna feel it's light and airy. They're not gonna know why it feels so light and airy, but they're gonna know that I'm gonna know that I did that. I created this feeling, and this is what I want to see. And I think that's what a lot of people get wrong is that they just want to make the sale. They just want to make the sale. And it's like, no, you want to create that experience. I don't need to sell the house. The house is gonna sell itself, but I'm gonna sell the experience. I'm going to sell the destination. And then the journey comes after that.
I think, and what's really cool too about selling and a lot of this is just the most fulfilling part is the prep and the journey.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I remember you and I were when I started Commit, remember I was showing you all the retail specific, like the video that we built for that company. Like that's the fun stuff. They had not seen that. We built that without winning the business. I just was so excited to put in all the work, make the investment, show them. I knew that there was going to be such a memorable moment when they said, well, how do we activate this thing? Let's fast forward 2 years when we turn it on. What's it going to look like? This is what it's going to look like.
Yeah.
Right? This is what it's going to look like. So if you don't put in the work, clients will feel that, and don't tell them you put in the work. Make them feel it. It's so powerful. And also, it's pretty cool when you know you've worked your ass off.
Bro, I think I'm about to run up 2024 in sales, man. You got me turned up right now, man.
It's just when you get obsessed with, and also you create a standard for yourself, right? So I have created a standard that I if I'm going to be a part of a sales pursuit, it's going to be elite. Everything's going to be perfect. To the damn footer on the PowerPoint slides, to the font, everything has to be consistent and perfect so I can speak. Our team can speak from a point of view of confidence. And at no point in an RFP response, in a PowerPoint discussion, in a prep call, will the client think, these guys, they made a mistake that was effort-based. Not a chance.
Yeah.
Not a chance. And that just gives you so much power when you do that from the beginning, that when it's time to negotiate, you already know that you've won. And so you're chipping away with all those future objections before they even come up. That's a powerful thing.
I love it, bro.
That's a powerful. It's an amazing thing to be able to do.
Man, and then for our entrepreneurs out there listening to this, I mean, he said so much great things, but I think the biggest thing that we could take away is that the two biggest things is that the winning is in the prep. We need a prep. And it's like football. We work so hard in the off season for 12 weeks out of the year. Hopefully 13 with playoffs now, 14, 15.
Yeah.
But think about that. Use that same analogy in life, in whatever you're doing. Prep. You need to put in the work now for later down the line. You can't think I'm going to put in this work today and it's going to show up tomorrow. No, it's going to show up months later. So for entrepreneurs listening, that's one big thing. And then another big thing too is that stories. I think people downplay the significance of storytelling. The story is in the struggle. The story is in the struggle. Tell stories. Stories tell, facts tell. we're both a part of Toastmasters.
Yeah.
And Toastmasters will change anyone's life if you need to tell a story. And every business is in the business of storytelling. Even on social media, what I'm doing with Instagram, I'm telling a story. I'm using vocal variety. I'm talking really fast. I'm knowing how to speak like this. And then I could slow it down. And then when I hit those power moments, you feel it.
That's where the authenticity and being genuine comes in.
But that's rehearsal. That's what I'm doing right now. That's practice. It's rehearse.
100%.
It's repetition after repetition after repetition. So, bro, I appreciate this so much. And for the entrepreneurs out there listening, man, that's not in sales. There's no such thing as an entrepreneur that's not in sales, because we have to sell ourselves every single
For
day.
entrepreneurs, what's your story? What is the genesis story of your business?
Come on.
What is?
Oh, you went biblical with us. Okay.
No, it's true though.
Okay.
Like somebody's gonna ask you why.
Yeah.
Why did you do it? That's got to be a member. Do not answer something with a tell a story with it.
yeah.
You could say, here's the problem that was solved, but here's how I got to that.
Exactly.
Here's what made me do that.
Whether you
It's-
have a clothing line.
and specificity is really important too, right? Like that's where brand builders really help me. If we're
Yes.
talking tactical, right? Like brand builders, like, oh my gosh, so many entrepreneurs are asked about their brand and they're like, how much time do you have? And they spend 5 minutes getting to the point of like, what is your uniqueness?
They don't
in
even know,
one word.
yes.
What do you,
What problem do you solve?
what is the problem? Like you should not leave a sales meeting or
Exactly.
anything where somebody's like, I just don't even know what commit does.
Yeah. That's the work. That's
Right.
That's putting in the hours to come up with that.
But all that prep gives you confidence, and that's
Exactly.
like and confidence is really important. And when you're going to get objections from prospects, being confident is that's another thing they can feel. When you're a defensive seller, that ain't good. That is not good. But if you're confident and respectful, and you do a little bit of the push pull, somehow the prospect will want to find a way to work with you.
Yes, I love that.
And that's a really cool thing when you start to see that shift.
Well, Matt, thank you so much for taking us to a masterclass today. I didn't have much to say, but I had to do Matt. Hey, we were in class today, y'all, so I'm taking notes. I hope y'all are taking notes, and I hope you guys got some great value out of this. Matt, any departing words?
No, just try some of this stuff and let us know if it works.
Yeah, I'm gonna try it today, bro. I'm telling you, I'm about to run up my. I've sold millions in real estate already, but I'm more of a developer. But I have my license.
Last pet peeve. Don't thank people for their time. I've told you guys this, but I think what I mean by that is their time is not more important than
your
yours.
time.
If you're a salesperson and you are doing the damn follow-up emails, just following up, like you eliminate all the respect that person has for you, that buyer. So always thank them for the discussion. Don't thank them for their time. Always give them specific times to meet. I'm not saying be an asshole and don't flip it and your time's not more important than yours, but your time is equally as important as your buyer. You might be a business development representative, lowest on the sales totem pole, but your time is just as important as that individual, and they should feel that. So always be respectful. Thank them for the discussion. Thank them for the ideation. Thank them for the opportunity, but don't thank them for the 30 minutes.
Amen. That's big. That's huge. That's the biggest takeaway I got. Thank you. We out, baby. Interrupt. Peace.
I never mess up the commas. You know I put that on my mom. Well, that's all we got for this episode of Inner Pump. One thing that would really help both of us and other new potential listeners is for you to rate this show and leave a comment on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you tune in to listen. Also, make sure to check us out at innerpump.com on social media, and if you enjoyed this episode and received anything of value, please share this podcast with anyone you think might enjoy it. Until next time, we out, baby. Inner Pump. Peace.